Hey guys, I am back with the new video today. We are checking out Black Desert Mobile again. As you guys know, I've been recording a lot of videos here and there of Black Desert, and I love to make these class tier list videos for you guys, so you guys know which class to choose, if your class is still good, or if you're starting the game, which class you guys should choose. And I'm gonna update this list from last one because there's been awakening in this game, and all the classes gotten an awakening, which means that the class basically changes to a different class if you choose to do so. So we're gonna check out the tier list and make sure you guys follow my socials if you guys haven't already, and let's get right into it. So I am here on my friend Herafield's account. As you guys see, he has every Ascension and Awakening. Okay, he got, yeah, not the Huntress, but like if you see, he plays all the classes. I had a nice discussion with him talking about the classes, which classes are good, which classes aren't that great, and he helped me out and I found out which class is really good and which is not, and we're going to talk about them right now. First of all, I'm going to go right into choosing a class, which is the warrior. He does not have the warrior, so we're going to start with the warrior. The warrior Ascension is the gladiator, and the awakening is the berserker. Now the gladiator isn't that good. I'm going to put different tiers on the classes. I'm going to have tier 1, which will be the highest tier, and then go all the way to tier 4, which will be the bottom tier. Now I will put the gladiator on tier 4, the lowest tier class. It is a melee class. It's not that great for mass PvP, which will be like Guild Siege or anything, because it's melee class. It doesn't have any really good defenses or offenses, just like an overall mech class. It uses a sword and a shield, and it's super like a basic melee class you can find in a lot of different MMOs. So nothing special about it. It has good PvE farming, but other than that, it's not too great when it comes to DPS or PvP. However, it's Awakening, the Berserker. If you did play the Ascension Gladiator, there is hope for you, because you can awaken it to a Berserker by finishing the story quest and getting the Awakening, which is the Berserker. Now the Berserker is a top tier class. I'll put Berserker on tier 1, close to tier 2, but tier 1. Now the Berserker is super good. It's a melee class, really good for PvE, super strong single target DPS. It has some good mobility, good damage overall, and super good for like single target PvE, or its DPS is super high. However, for PvP and guild versus guild, it's not too good. Again, it's a melee class. It can do some damage because of its grabs and skills and control, but in mass PvP, it would just get shredded, unfortunately, and generally PvP. It's not that great. Now that is the warrior. Now let's move on to the next one, which is the ranger. Now the rangers, right here, the ranger awakening is the windwalker, and was Ascension is the huntress. Now these are one of the classes where you don't want to awaken your class. Now we have Herafield here. He's on the huntress. Use the Huntress. Huntress is tier 1. It is the best class still till this day. I think every single class video I made since Black Desert Mobile came out, Huntress has been on the top. Super good for PvP, long range, fast attacks, has some type of mobility, really strong, good for guild versus guild. It has its distance, can keep its distance, do good amount of damage from far, doesn't have to get involved in the fights. Super good for PvE with the strong attacks, long range attacks. You can do really fast farming, really great, and his DPS isn't like the highest, but it's super high still. So overall, the Huntress is the top 1 class still till this day. In my opinion, so I'll put it on tier 1, highest one. However, this is pretty funny. It's Awakening, which is the Windwalker, is a bottom tier class, tier 4 bottom tier. So if you do play a ranger, you just want to keep it on the Huntress. You don't want to change the Windwalker. Now with the Windwalker, it turns into a melee class, like an assassin type class. It has some good movement, and it is like decent, I guess, in like PvE. Not too good in, can be good in like PvP, like one-on-one, but like mass PvP and so on is just awful. I would not recommend the Windwalker Awakening on Ranger. But again, Huntress tier 1 and Windwalker tier 4, bottom tier. So we're gonna go to the next one, which will be the Dark Knight. Now the Dark Knight Ascension is the Void Knight. It's a pretty new class. I think it's one of the newest classes, and I talked about it in the last video. And its awakening is the Phantasma. Now we're gonna go to my boy Hater Field right here. We're gonna talk about. She looks good. Looks pretty good. But basically, the Void Knight is a melee, like magic type class. Like it's average, like overall I would put it on like a tier 2/tier 3, like a high tier 3 or a low tier 2 basically. Good for PvE, good farm. PvP wise is decent. It has some good CC and it uses like its magic, melee magic damage. So it is average class overall. Not that good for guild versus guild, again, because it is a melee class, so they're not that good when it comes to mass PvP. However, the Awakening, the Phantasma, her right here, she is really good. She's close to being as good as the Huntress. She's up there, tier 1. Probably like top 1, top 2 in between. And she has like double swords. However, her attacks are medium long range. Which is really nice, and the magic attacks are super strong, super high mobility, good for PvP, good for PvE, good for mass PvP too. Can do some nice damage in guild sieges and so on, and really good for PvE farming. So highly suggest this. If you don't like the Huntress type class with the Ranger, you want to go for a Phantasma. It looks really good, and she can do some really good damage. So that is Phantasma tier 1, while the Void Knight like tier 2, tier 3. So you can't go wrong with any of them basically. A good choice, the Dark Knight. Now let's move on to the Witch. Now the Witch has Ascension, which is the Archmage, and the Awakening, which is the Invoker. Now Witch is, Archmage is really good for PvE, really good for farming. It's one of the fastest farmers in the game. Let's see if I can find really good farming in game. Not that good for PvP, unfortunately. Decent in like guild versus guild because it can keep its range, but overall not that great DPS wise too. But super nice, super fast farming and PvE. However, I would put it on like tier 2, tier 3, like tier 3 style, maybe close to tier 3. While the Invoker, I would put it a little bit higher, like a tier 2, because the Invoker has really good farming. Not as good as the Archmage, but it's super nice at farming. Good for mass PvP. Has a pet, which is really nice. It has like a pet elemental that helps fighting, which is super fun, and I like that they added this aspect of character in this game. But good in like mass guild sieges, and it's a really decent class if you want to check it out. But super nice at having the ability to farm super fast. So that is the Invoker. You can change between the classes for free once, I think, and then after that you have to pay if you want to switch back to Archmage, or you want to switch back to Invoker. You can do that by paying. Now let's move on. I keep clicking this. Let's move on to the next class. So I put, what did I do? Put Invoker in tier 2 while the Archmage at tier 3. So that was the Witch. We're going to talk about the Giant next. Giant has the Ascension, which is the Titan, and the Awakening, which is the Destroyer. Now the early, when the game came out, I chose the Giant, but the Giant was like a meh class, but it's still like kind of like a meh class. It has good farming, like super good in PvE and farming overall. It has like good CC, good mobility, but for PvP 1v1 it's not that great. It's really slow fighting, but it does have decent mobility. But again, it is a melee class. It can do unleash some good DPS though, good CC, good control effects, like good throwing abilities and so on. Let's see here, where is his Giant here? So it has like it's a decent class. However, I would put it on like the bottom tier, like high tier 4 or low tier 3. However, the Destroyer It is a tier 2 class, or bottom tier 2, sorry. Good at farming, good PvE wise, good for PvP, small PvP battles. However, it's not that great when it comes to mass PvP or good guild versus guilds. Its DPS isn't that high either, but it is a really fun melee class to play. Massive giant with good like CC abilities, good grabs, good dodge, good combos, and so on. So decent class. I'll put it on tier 3, tier 2. I would prefer the Destroyer over the Titan, however. Now, let's go to the next one. What do we have here? We have the Striker. Now, the Striker does not have an Awakening. Its Ascension is the Grand Master. Now, this class right here is like decent in PvE. However, it's like good in PvP because it has good CC, good like one of the best mobilities, but super good CCs. And not much you can say about it. It's a melee class, not that great for like mass PvP, but it is like a decent class to play. It does not have an Awakening, so like a lot of people don't want to usually play this class. It just has an Ascension, but not much more I can say about it. It's like a martial artist class. You want to fight with your fists and so on, this is like the class to go. Move on to the Valkyrie. Valkyrie Ascension is the Paladin, and the Awakening is the Lancer. Now, the Paladin, when it came out, was really good. A lot of people chose the Valkyrie as the character. It has good defensive skills, good support, good buffs, good healing, decent damage. It was like overall a fun, nice class to play. However, it's not that good of a class. It is a bottom tier, like tier 4 class. Right now, it's like melee class, grabbing, defense, like nothing wow about it. It has like it's fun in like PvP, not mass PvP, but like small PvP battles. Good in PvE farming. DPS isn't that great because it is focused on being like an overall defense slash attack balanced class. However, the Lancer isn't any better. It isn't any better. They're both tier 4 in my opinion. Harefield chose Lancer because it's more fun to play. You have like a spear instead of a lance instead of a sword. But nothing really wow about it. You just decent overall in when it comes to like PvE, but really bad in like mass PvP or PvP generally. Nothing wow about it. Just an meh class overall. So I wouldn't show, if I were you guys and you guys want to get into game, definitely not, the Valkyrie is definitely not a way to go. Both the Ascension or the Awakening aren't that great compared to the other classes. Now, the Sorceress, which is the Ascension is the Raven, and the Awakening is the Reaper. Now, the Sorceress is really good. It uses, again, good melee slash range attacks. See if I can find his Sorcerer. There we go. Now overall, good for farming, good for like PvP, generally like a decent class. Good but for mass PvP is not that great. However, for PvE farm, super strong, good DPS. However, when it reaches the Awakening, the Reaper is the top tier class, guys. Like tier 1 class right there. Super strong PvE. Actually, one of the only, in my opinion, the only melee classes that can do good in like big guild versus guild fights. It has a good spinning ability. It has a good range on the scythe, even though it's melee slash range class. Super strong, super high DPS. I think it has one of the highest DPS out of all the classes in this game. Definitely would choose the Reaper. So to sum it up, I would put Huntress, Phantasma, Reaper at like tier 1, like solid tier 1 classes. I would put the Berserker, Invoker, like the Dark Knight or the Void Knight, the Destroyer at like tier 2, maybe like Destroyer, Void Knight like a bottom tier 2. Then like Striker, the Grandmaster and like the Titan Raven at like tier 3, and then the rest of the class at like bottom tier. You're like with the Paladin, Lancer, Windwalker. Definitely would not chose the Valkyrie if I were you guys. But that is my class tier list. If you guys agree with me, let me know. If you guys disagree with me, let me know. However, again, it's too long to watch. Conclusion is go for the Huntress. You can never go wrong. Super amazing class. If you do want to be more melee type, go for the Berserker. Or if you like the mage type, the magic type, go for the Phantasma. Hope this was helpful. If you guys enjoyed or learned something, make sure you guys like, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll be probably back with more Black Desert videos. Thank you guys for watching.